American Express Open Business Cards from American Express can help cover the big purchases you need to make when you need to make them. Find out how American Express Open Cards and Services can help prepare you for growth at open.com.
Hey everyone, this is Rachel Young-gu from the ESPN Esports Podcast. Is Overwatch the next big esport? How much has BlizzCon changed over the past few years? We break it all down on this week's podcast. Be sure to tune in.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Dwayne Wade back in Miami.
Nice move by Wade to the reverse. It counts.
I appreciate it all, but the game itself is just weird.
Championship visit day on the South Lawn.
By knocking off the Warriors, they cemented the 1996 Bulls as the greatest team of all time. So your president thanks you for that.
In the world of all these turkeys, you're a peacock, Greenie. Believe in yourself.
Is that like something your therapist would say to you to motivate you?
No, my therapist is not nearly that inspirational.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guest on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, that was Domonique Foxworth, who was in with us a little while ago. We've got Field Yates ready to go here. We will do a recess with him in just a couple of minutes. I'm just trying to read because a new reader just came across from Pat Riley on his email that he sent to Dwayne Wade. So these relationship dynamics to me are fascinating. And I was the one, Mike, I feel like you disagreed with me. First off, good morning, Field. Well,
good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
It's a nice shirt that you have there. I like it.
Thank you. Too casual for you?
No, it's not.
You got on me last time.
I know you weren't looking at me when you said that. Nothing too
Never.
casual.
Very casual.
Never. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Oh, he doesn't like it.
He's biting his tongue.
He does not like it.
If I had a cardigan on,
wow,
then we'd be in business.
See, no, let's not do that because I want to get into this topic here because I think it is an interesting one. That what is it about sports that we like? I guess there are a lot of things about sports that we like. Some of us just like to watch people competing against each other. Some of us, like Domonique was saying earlier, we really enjoy the chess match nature of certain sporting events. To me, I appreciate more than anything else, I think, the drama. And much of the drama comes in seeing the passion. I love seeing how much people want to win and then trying. And then there's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat and all of the interpersonal stuff. Sure. Which is why, Mike, I said that the pregame last week of Kevin Durant versus Russell Westbrook fascinated me. I was dying to see the dynamic between those two guys. And I feel like you disagreed.
I was interested in seeing it, but it didn't fascinate me. I wasn't hanging on that at all, no.
Well, so I find this fascinating. Heat President Pat Riley says he emailed Dwayne Wade after the former Miami star said Wednesday he hadn't spoken to Riley since the end of last season. Riley said before the Heat hosted the Bulls that he had reached out. Wade confirmed he had received the email, but said he hadn't read it yet. He said his focus was on the game. So let's just contemplate all the different things at play here, right? Wade, greatest player not only in the history of the Heat, but the greatest player in the history of South Florida.
Right.
Riley, the mastermind, the architect of all the great stuff that he was able to do down there and more. Somehow he leaves Miami and talks to everybody. He talked about talking to clubhouse people and all that. Never spoke to Riley.
Right.
Says so publicly upon his coming back. Riley's initial reaction is to send him an email.
Yeah.
I don't know, does he not have his phone number? Whatever. He sends him an email. Wade's reaction is to not read the email before the game. This, to me, is fascinating interpersonal dynamic.
Yeah, to me, it's not. But I don't believe he didn't read the email either. I think that was the best answer to give because what did he say is, oh, yeah, he sent me an email. I read the email. Then the barrage of questions. What did he say? What did he say in the email? How did he say it?
But you could easily say, you know what, that's just between us.
Why even go that far? It was just, there's a little bit of a power thing to saying I didn't read it, but I don't believe. And end of questions. You can't question him anymore if he didn't read it. I don't believe for a second that
so
he
you
didn't read
believe
it.
he didn't read it? You're saying you don't believe he didn't read it?
I think he
double
read
negative.
them. Yes, I absolutely think he read the email.
And then do you think he went to the length of marking it as unread so that if anyone would ever see his inbox, he would have plausible deniability?
I don't know, and I don't care. What I will say is, it's amazing when some of this stuff ends like this that somebody can't. These are all grown men here. That somebody can't pick up the phone and actually call somebody. I'm always amazed at this. They haven't spoken since. They're not going to speak. Well, I heard he hasn't spoken to him, so I sent him an email. It blows my mind. That stuff really does.
Do we really buy the idea that it was an email? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, shortly after Dwayne Wade signed with the Chicago Bulls, I believe Pat Riley sent a lengthy text to Dan Le Batard. So I know he's a texter. I know he's proficient in texting. I remember it being very colorful, a lot of exclamation points, capitalized words. Like, I just don't understand how you land on email when you're trying to reach out into, as you just referenced him being, Greeny, the greatest player in franchise history. Is an email really the direct mode of communication that you turn to? I guess I get a laugh out of this more than anything else.
Riley is, to me, he is one of the most interesting people in sports. I've said many times, I'm in the interesting business. I need interesting people doing interesting things. I just find that fascinating. And Mike, I don't want this to come out as challenging, but I would ask you, when you talk about this, you've told me many times when you left Philly, it was personal for you.
It was.
Right? You let it get personal. So to that extent, does that not inform the way you view this? Like, did you pick up the phone and call someone you were mad at, or did they pick up a phone and call you?
No, I did not. You're absolutely right.
You know what I mean? It's sitting here, I get it. We're adults and we're different, but you're playing. This is your life. You're right in the middle of it, and you're mad, and you don't pick up the phone.
I also wasn't with wasn't there as long, wasn't a star player there as long. Didn't
matter to you.
Yeah, but didn't have all the interactions with the GM there that obviously Dwayne Wade did with Pat Riley. They were more than just, that work. I had a working relationship with Mike. There was no personal touch at all there, and with Dwayne Wade there was with Pat Riley. So I do think that's a little bit different.
Did you ever express to them your disappointment in what happened?
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right then and there when basically.
In the room.
Yeah, in the room. Oh, yes. I expressed it. I didn't like how they went about what they did, and then I'll see you on the field.
Golic's an in the room kind of guy.
I am an in the room kind of guy.
Yeah, you're Mike Field. You're absolutely right, because Paul Cart just sent me the Dwayne Wade text to Dan Le Batard.
I mean, it's like, that's something I think I got from my sister when we were 14 and 16 years old. That kind of expression and emoticon and all that. So very impressive.
How long ago was that? Just out of curiosity.
Last week.
When you were 14 and 16 years old. Okay, fair enough. Sorry. All right, let's talk about a couple other things, because what's the right way to do this? That's how we opened the show this morning, Field, and with your expertise in the area. You've got an aging superstar. Mm-hmm. You have to balance treating him the right way, however it is that one defines that, with looking out for the best future interest of the organization. Pat Riley's only job, really, is to try and figure out how to win the next championship. All the ones that happened already are done.
Yep.
Wade is everything about him is about all those championships they already won, and it's awesome. So how do you balance that if you're the person sitting in Riley's extremely expensive seat?
I think he made the right choice. I mean, he's been the one thing I always say about sports executives that they must be able to do is not to be emotional. And we think about some of the best executives across all sports and what they are able to do in difficult situations, and that is detach themselves from the player's history. And I'm not saying you shouldn't appreciate the player's history. I'm not saying those players are not an integral part of the franchise's history, but think about some of the best in sports, whether it's, what about Bill Belichick as the Patriots sort of de facto GM? If you are no longer providing the value on the field commensurate with the pay that you are desiring or that you are currently demanding, you're no longer a New England Patriot. Ozzie Newsome, the Ravens GM. Remember after the Super Bowl, they traded away Anquan Bolden.
Yeah.
An unpopular move at the time, but that was what he believed was in the best interest of the franchise. And Pat Riley has been shrewd. He has made difficult decisions time and again. And although right now this Heat season is going to be difficult to stomach for a lot of fans in South Florida, this is probably a team that in the next year or two, as that NBA salary cap, as you know, it ballooned last year, and the crop of free agents is going to become compelling in the next couple of years. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden Miami is primed to make a major run at one of those significant free agents that everybody else in the league is clamoring for.
Here's the other thing. This isn't a situation of cutting someone, trading someone away. As Stu Gotch brought up earlier, he was offered 2 for $40.
Yep.
I mean, he was offered a nice amount, and he ended up taking, 2 for $48. And you can sit there and say with the no tax in Florida that he's going to make just as much. But we know how it can be. It can be the number. Did Dwayne Wade want the 2 for $48 to be exceeded and to feel like I need to be respected, so they need to make a higher offer than that? But he did offer him 2 for $40, so maybe there's a bit of a two-way street there. You know, that people would say, you know what, hey, listen, Dwayne, I'm still going to offer you 2 for $40, but you also have to understand this team's not doing anything. We don't have LeBron anymore. Chris Bosh isn't coming back. The big three we know is over. So we're kind of in a rebuilding. 2 for $40 is a nice amount here. We appreciate what you've done. Come back here if you want to finish your career here. It's a nice amount, but we're going to start building all over again. So and Stugotz did bring that up, and that's a fair point. It wasn't 2 for 10, or 2 for 15. It was 2 for 40. It was a good offer.
Sort of right down that line of not being insulting to Dwayne Wade, but not being enough for him to feel like this is a no-brainer. I'm staying in the only place I've ever called my professional basketball home. All other suitors, thanks, but no thanks. I'm sticking with Miami.
See, I'm not close enough to the situation to say this definitively, but my sense of it is that Riley made him an offer he knew he wouldn't take. I think that's what happened.
Yep.
That he made him an offer that the same way that Dwayne Wade could mark that email as unread and thus have plausible deniability, I think Pat Riley has plausible deniability.
I wish I had something like that.
Me too.
Give me that offer and act like I won't take it.
Offer me 2 for $40 and expect me not to take it.
Exactly.
See how that goes. All right, time for recess. My school's in. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. In November, Progressive is giving thanks for our military service men and women by donating over 100 vehicles to veterans in need through the Keys to Progress program. To learn more, go to progressive.com/Keys to Progress. All right, recess. We'll go through a bunch of the games on the schedule for this NFL weekend, and we have little clever questions designed for Mr. Golic and Mr. Yates here for each of them. All right. Let's start with this. We've got the Battle of the Birds, Falcons at Eagles. Last year, the Falcons started 5-0. They wound up missing the playoffs. This year, the Eagles started 3-0, but they have since dropped 4 of their last 5. So, Golic, should fans of the Philadelphia Eagles relax? Or panic?
Well, if it's about this year and making the playoffs, it's panic. That's what it would be. I think they can relax in the fact that they have their quarterback, and going forward, I think they'll build off of him for the future. But as far as this year is concerned, He's fallen off a little bit, but what's around him, losing Lane Johnson, they don't have the rushing attack, and the defense is not playing as good as it did early on as well. So I think from the whole around that and making the playoffs this year, that's a panic.
I know for a fact that he's a master of panic.
Field.
Relax. If I told you as an Eagles fan on September 1st, before the season began, that you could be at the halfway point and be 4-4 and have no question about the fact that Carson Wentz was your quarterback of the future because you spent significant draft capital to pay up to move to that number 2 slot to draft him. So if I gave you 4-4 and Carson Wentz looking like the real deal, I bet even in a town and city that has as much passion and as many expectations as Philadelphia does, that you would take that scenario. Here we are. Carson Wentz looks like the real deal. His recent struggles are much more of a byproduct of those around him than some sort of rookie wall that he has hit. So I think relax.
If we're talking the long run, as I said, I agree. But if we're talking this year in playoffs, it would be panic.
RELAX. Relax.
The problem is that at 3-0 and a blowout win over the Steelers, expectations may have gotten completely out of whack. All right, next game is Houston and Jacksonville. Which statement is more true? The Broncos' best offseason move was not signing Brock Osweiler, or the Texans' best offseason move was signing Brock Osweiler. Which is more true?
I'm going to go with a process of elimination here, and I'm going to say that the Broncos' best offseason move was not signing Brock Osweiler by a mile. $36 million in guaranteed money for Brock Osweiler, $72 million in terms of total value. I think the Broncos' best offseason move was probably getting Von Miller signed long-term, but between these two options, clearly not signing Brock.
It's not even close. Between these two, it's not even close.
And it is?
And not signing Brock Osweiler back in Denver.
So you don't believe the Broncos would be better suited right now with him than what they have?
Not I'm talking about that money.
Yep.
No, absolutely not. Not investing that money. I wasn't a firm believer in Osweiler to boot from the beginning, let alone then put that kind of money into him. So no, this was an easy answer for me.
Okay, next. Golic, the Rams at the Jets. True or false? Both teams are starting the quarterback that gives them the best chance to win this game on Sunday.
Oh, I still think that's true, yeah. I mean, with Goff, we absolutely don't know what's going on behind the scenes there at all. Case Keenum still, even though he's the second leading intercepting thrower in the league right now, only behind, saying it that way.
It's the reverse. I mean? It's whatever it is. Whatever leading is the opposite of. Him and Ryan Fitzpatrick, the two quarterbacks in this game, are the two worst quarterbacks in the sport.
That's why I started with Case saying second, getting to Fitzpatrick, who is the worst. But still, I think from the pure standpoint of giving a team the best chance to win, he still does over a Bryce Petty first start.
All right.
I'm going to go with...
Hold on a second. I got all these sound effects here. I don't like that. I don't like that answer.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to go with false. And listen, I understand there's the...
standing on the line of scrimmage.
Sorry.
Why'd you have to play that?
Because your answer offended my sensibility. Go ahead.
Okay. There's the unknown of Jared Goff and frankly Bryce Petty as well. We don't know what either one of these players will become in the NFL for certain. But you can't tell me that a player who was drafted number 1 overall, and not as if the Rams shocked the world by taking him number 1 overall. A lot of teams would have taken him with that first pick if they owned it and need a quarterback. You can't tell me that he's significantly worse than what we've seen recently from Case Keenum. And I get the Rams' offense is as difficult to watch as there is in the NFL, perhaps outside of San Francisco. Case Keenum has had some steady games so far this year. But come on, make a change. Do it.
Wasn't the question. The question was this game.
I know. I used a different argument.
You did.
To
You went
prove my
completely
point.
a different argument.
I just wanted to see Greeny move that soundboard.
Just standing on the line of scrimmage.
He didn't answer your question.
I don't care.
Okay.
You didn't answer it the way I wanted to. Next, Kansas City at Carolina. The Chiefs have won 16 of their last 18 regular season games. They have a plus 29 turnover margin in that span. Field Yates, are they the second best team in the AFC behind the Patriots?
Yes, because they're about to get very, very scary on defense with the healthy return of Justin Houston, who just 2 years ago had 22 sacks in a single season, one of the best pass rushers in football when fully healthy. You combine that with Dee Ford, their first-round pick in 2014, who had 5.5 sacks in his first 2 seasons. He has 9 already this year. He's only behind Lorenzo Alexander of the Bills and Von Miller of the Broncos. This Chiefs pass rush is very good. They've got a confident corner in Marcus Peters. They're incredibly well coached, and on offense, they're going to be able to run the football now that Spencer Ware is back.
Completely agree. For all the reasons that you said, with Ware coming back, with Houston coming back, and even Alex Smith, missing a game and having the issue, Nick Foles has come in, and I think Nick Foles, when you talk about that backup quarterback, fits the mold of that. He's come in, he's got 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 65% completion percentage. So, yes, I think overall, because I do like Oakland, that defense certainly is shaky compared to the offense. I like Kansas City more overall.
You're both wrong.
Oh, God.
You dig. Right now, the Raiders are the second best team.
Ooh. You're asking us the questions. You're not supposed to be giving your opinion.
No, but I am ultimately the arbiter of who's right and who's wrong. And in this case, even though you gave the same answer, Field was right and you were wrong. All right, finally, Minnesota at Washington. Washington, meaning the Skins, and the University of Washington both hold the final playoff spot in their respective sports. So, Golic, which team is more likely to make the playoffs?
The college Washington, more like, and they listen, of the undefeateds, they have the toughest road. Now with USC making the run they're making with 5 wins in a row and up ranked 20th, and Washington State, if they win the rest of theirs before these two face each other at the end of the season, at 23rd.
And they're the one the committee is itching to get out if they can.
They are. I like Washington. I think they are being undersold. Love the O-line. Love the defensive line. They got playmakers. I love the quarterback as well. So, absolutely, I think they are going to make the Final Four.
Field.
Agreed. University of Washington. I mean, Washington in the NFL plays in the most competitive division in the league right now. All teams are at or above 500. And it seems like University of Washington is basically on autopilot to the Final Four. They've got to take care of business. Hold serve. Obviously, this weekend, a big game against USC.
It's a big one.
Very big game. USC's played much better of late. But it feels like University of Washington, and maybe it's because they play late time, and a lot of the country doesn't see them in prime time. This team is, I don't know about underrated. They're in the top 4, but they're very, very good.
I trust Washington's quarterback more than Washington's quarterback.
So you're saying you trust Browning more than Cousins. All right.
Like how I did that?
I did.
Don't
press in. Once again, you've given the same answer, and yet somehow Field is right and Golic is wrong.
I love this show.
Recess is done for the day. Thank you so much, Field Yates. Always a pleasure to have you.
You guys are kind of alike, and I like Field, and I hate you.
Well, that goes to show it's exactly the same principle by which you can give the same answer, and he can be right, and you can be wrong. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And here we go with the most important thing of the day, and that is this morning's winning word. We're going to give you the word. Golic is going to give you 2 ways to enter the word. Right now, you should enter both of those ways to double your chance of winning a magnificent trip with us to the College Football National Championship game with thanks to AutoZone, which is the sponsor of our contest. Again, we pick a winner every day, you and a guest. Top-of-the-line accommodations, all expenses paid, dinner with us the night before, tailgate, come to the shows, hang out with everybody, and we'll sit together and watch the College Football National Championship in Tampa, all for knowing that today's word is winless.
Winless.
The Browns haven't won a game, and so the word is winless, WINLESS. Golic, the 2 ways to enter.
And the only 2 ways, this is the most important part, gang. If you enter any other way but these 2 ways, you will not be officially entered and joining us in Tampa Bay. So we take the word winless and text it to 777-000, and you can enter online at mikesroadtothecfp.com. So the 2 ways to enter with the word, text it to 777-000, or enter it online to mikesroadtothecfp.com, and maybe will UW be there? Will they be one of the teams there?
We will find out. My prediction is no, but we will wait and we will see.
No?
I think that they are the one team that cannot afford, of all the big teams right now, to lose a game.
But you know what? A lot of people are expecting right now that they would be number 4 and play Alabama first, but that won't happen if Ohio State beats Michigan. And then Ohio State would have a loss. I think Washington would move up and be maybe 3, and Ohio State would possibly be 4, and then Washington wouldn't have to face Alabama in that first game.
Well, Ohio State right now is behind Washington, so it would, if they beat Michigan, however, it would be interesting to see if they put them ahead of them.
Beating a top team. I'm with you.
Because they put Texas A&M ahead of them where they lost previously.
Be interesting.
There are a lot of little machinations yet to work themselves out, and we'll see how they go. Domonique's coming back. Joey Galloway's on the way. It's a Football Friday. Mike, and right now, a word from 1-800-FLOWERS. Mike, football season's getting intense, and it's safe to say your loved ones are feeling the effects. They haven't seen your face in months, but you can't give up now. Your team needs you. So before you disappear into the man cave for another weekend of football insanity, remind your special someone they're still your MVP with a bouquet from 1-800-FLOWERS.com.
Right now, when you order 36 stunning autumn roses, you're going to get them for $36. It's 1-800-FLOWERS. 36 for 36 deal. 36 stunning autumn roses, $36. Great offer, of course. Every rose bouquet is backed by their 100% smile guarantee. You want to order those 36 autumn roses for $36? Here's what you do. You go to 1-800-FLOWERS.com on your desktop or your mobile device. Click on that radio icon and enter Mike. 1-800-FLOWERS.com. You click on that radio icon and enter Mike. And understand, gang, this offer ends today. Back after this, Mike and Mike.
Black off the play fake. Feaster on deep. Looking end zone. Look for Perriman, who makes the catch. A sensational grab. Touchdown, Ravens.
One of several. WBAL the call last night. Ravens started slow, turned it on in the second half, and wound up pulling away for an easy win over division rival Cleveland, 28-7 the final. The Browns dropped to 0-10. Warriors win last night. They beat the Nuggets 125-101. Kevin Durant had scored 20 points in 72 straight games. That streak came to an end last night. And college basketball is back tonight. It is the Armed Forces Classic on ESPN. It starts at 7 Eastern. How about these games if you're a college hoops fan? Number 10 Arizona versus number 12 Michigan State. And number 11 Indiana versus number 3 Kansas. Good stuff. Mike and Mike Sports Center brought to you by Burger King.
I don't know how this is even possible, and even more so, I don't know how it's not in front of me right now. At Burger King, you get 3 pancakes for 89 cents. 3 hot, fluffy, golden pancakes, 89 cents. Unbelievable, yet true. 3 pancakes, 89 cents. Only at Burger King. Limited time only. Price and participation do vary.
All right, Domonique Foxworth back with us up on our set. And again, a completely apolitical observation. But Mike and I have been invited guests to the White House, and we were there both for a function during the day and a function in the evening.
Right. Rub it in, why don't you?
What's that?
You're so fancy.
It just was what it was. The point I'm making is, for those watching with us on ESPN2, Cassidy just showed some video of President Obama yesterday welcoming the Cavaliers. It was fun. It was light. It was funny. They went out on the basketball court. They did a mannequin challenge, all this kind of stuff. In the same day, he met with President-elect Trump. They sat together for 90 minutes, I believe, and they talked about whatever it is that you talk about when you begin this transition. And then they had their first ever photo op together and they're shaking hands. I mean, just imagine doing both of those things in a day. The overwhelming nature of that job is... It does somewhat stun me. I would be exhausted, or at least feel like I had done a full day's work doing either of those things. To do both of those, which could not be more opposite of each other, within the span of like 2 hours of each other, is remarkable.
I was amazed in going through an election year and then watching all the news shows that I learned so many things. I didn't realize like that the president has 4,000 appointed jobs that he has to give. It's just amazing. But to bring it to the sports thing, Jalen Rose is the one that brought this up. Do you think now there will be players in sports that do not go to the White House? And would you be one of them if it were a president that you didn't vote for or didn't agree with and your team won the championship, would it dissuade you from going to the White House?
I absolutely think. I mean, players didn't go for President Obama.
Oh, we've got plenty. We've got a list of players who haven't gone.
Yeah, I think that it'll definitely happen.
Would you?
I would go. I would go.
I would absolutely positively go.
Yeah, I certainly. I've been challenging myself, so I move in mostly liberal East Coast, predominantly black circles. So it hasn't been a great couple of days, and I've been challenging myself to not be pessimistic. So in that spirit, I do think that these things will be funnier. And President Obama was a very funny and engaging president, but I think President Trump, and that's pretty upsetting if that's the most positive thing I could think of, but I do think that having these interactions will be more interesting with a new President Trump.
I'll even say, forgetting the candidate, I've always been, if I'm getting an invite to the White House, I'm going. I said that when we went the last time, whether it's someone I voted for or not. I respect the White House, and I respect the person in that White House. It doesn't, whether I agree with what they're doing or not, I would go. I absolutely would. Especially if I had never been to the White House before, I'm absolutely going to, because you do get to go in the White House, tour the White House, see a lot of different things in the White House. I would, without question, I don't
know that I could make a blanket statement. I think given the situation now, I would go, but I would like to reserve some space for if there was something done or said, which I think that President-elect Trump has said plenty of things that would give me pause. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going back a little bit, but I think going into it, if there was some decision that was made, because I think that more important than me meeting the president would possibly be in that situation making a social stand. I could understand during Vietnam, maybe some players would want to make that stance.
Right.
Me shaking hands with the president is not as powerful as potentially me saying that we need to get out of Vietnam or some other issue of the day that might be powerful or poignant.
So with that thought in mind, and I want to reserve some time when we're with you here in this hour to talk a little X's and O's. Okay. Because I feel like we always talk about all sorts of other things with you, and that's because you're very good on that stuff. But the truth is, anyone who follows your work on the Undefeated, you do a ton of X's and O's stuff as well. But having just said that, I just came across these quotes, and I think this is really interesting and timely. And Kimberly Martin, who covers the New York Jets for Newsday, is the one who posted them. But they're quotes from Jets receiver Brandon Marshall, who's one of the more outspoken, obviously, NFL players. He has a huge platform. He does a weekly national television show and all of that. And he's a thoughtful person. And here's one of the things. I'm just going to read you these quotes. He said, "The challenge with athletes is thinking that they have to speak on everything. I think they're feeling the pressure from society. There's been a call to action for athletes to stand up and use the platform, but that doesn't mean you need to talk about minimum wage when you know nothing about that. You don't need to talk about policy when you know nothing about policy. If politics isn't your thing, that's okay. But people feel ashamed. They feel like they're going to be judged. But if that's not your thing, that's okay. If race isn't your thing, that's okay. If cancer is not your thing, that's okay. It's okay not to have an opinion." I covered Michael Jordan at the apex of his fame and popularity, and if there was one thing for which he was criticized at a time when he was probably the most beloved person in the world, if there was one thing for which he was commonly criticized, it was a reluctance to speak out on basically any issue, social issue, political issue, whatever the case may be. And generally it was perceived to be, and I think accurately so, it was for fear of alienating all those who would disagree. Yeah. Because he was an enormously successful business person at the same time and was selling shoes and all the rest of that. The pendulum has really swung to the other direction now, where athletes are so famous and have such a platform, and we're seeing so many of them using that platform. So do you think, Mike, I'll start with you, that a lot of athletes feel that pressure now as though, hey, if I don't say something, I'm going to be judged as though I don't care, or I do you hear what Brandon Marshall is saying?
I hear what he's saying, and I think that a lot of it because of social media and how quickly you can get things out there, both positive and negatively, that there is pressure. But I 1,000% agree with him. I would never. How uncomfortable would you go feel and act like you're involved in something but aren't educated on it? I mean, you're going to make yourself just look foolish, especially if it is a real social issue where you feel like, oh, I got to say something about this. Well, no, you don't. Yeah. No, you don't. And you don't have to be passionately or act passionately involved in something if you're not. If you are, if you feel the need to make a statement and you're educated on it, more power to you, because professional athletes, entertainers, you do have a pulpit if you want to use it. So I would say if you're going to use that pulpit, I agree 100% with that. Be educated in what you're using it for.
So one of the last times I was on the show, Golic, you called me, I forgot what it was. Maybe you just said that generally I am kind of take the other side of issues.
Contrarian?
Yeah, that was the word, contrarian. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a smart guy, despite the fact that I lost that word for a second. But you call me a contrarian. Right. And I took that as a compliment because I think it's a good thing. So in this area, I agree with what Brandon said. He's actually one of the few guys, him and like Richard Sherman, and there's a couple other guys, one of the few guys that I still keep in contact with in the league, and I consider an actual friend off the field. So I love him, and I think he's been through some tough times. I think he's a smart guy. I agree with him wholeheartedly, but I would like to push back a little bit and say that those athletes speaking out, whether they know what they're talking about or not, it creates a conversation and it forces people who might try to avoid those conversations to be confronted with them. So when athletes say things that are ill-informed and possibly divisive, it's not because they certainly aren't the only ones saying it. Mm-hmm. So I think when they say it and they are called to task and those comments are evaluated on sports shows where people tend not to look for political and social stances, that helps evolve the conversation. Having said that, I agree that it's not their responsibility any more than it's anyone else's responsibility. So when we have all these conversations about do athletes have an obligation, I personally believe that athletes, celebrities, talk show hosts have no more obligation to make this society what it should be than baristas or cab drivers or anyone else. We all have a responsibility to carry the torch of what this country says that it stands for.
But you know what people say, that we can reach more people, so we should use that for the positive. But again, I go to Brandon and I say, if you're not sure what you're talking about and you're just doing it to do it.
I don't think that's true, though. Like, I understand it may be easier, but I think when you believe in something and you are willing to sacrifice for it, then you can reach whomever you want. And this might be an extreme example, but I'm always brought to mind Mohamed Bouazizi, who started like the Arab Spring revolution. He set himself on fire, so I'm not suggesting that anyone else should do that. But my point there is, if it's something you believe strongly in, enough, if you believe in strongly enough, then there are actions that you can take.
You can find a way, you're saying.
I think it's defeatist to say, well, I'm just Joe Schmo. I can't do anything about it. Like, everybody was just Joe Schmo until they started doing something about it. So I don't know. I'm giving not only motivational speeches to my friend Greeny the Peacock, but motivational speeches to the country now.
I just find it interesting that the pendulum has swung that far in the other direction, to where you used to feel as though the weight of the world, if you will fall on you if you do stand up for something. And now I think what Brandon Marshall is saying, you feel as though the weight of the world is going to fall on you if you don't.
Right.
And that's an interesting change. Let me break quickly on that thought. We'll come back. We'll do some more. Domonique is here. And I do want to let you do a little X's and O's with us here, because we could talk some football as well. What's that?
That's boring. This stuff is so much better.
It's anything but boring. We'll do all that and more as we continue after a word from Casper. Mike, I can't believe it's fall, and it's only going to get crazier, and it's going to get colder the next couple of weeks. So you should consider curling up on your Casper mattress and hibernating until spring.
It's one perfect mattress with 2 high-tech foams that's going to provide all the comfort and support you need. And here's the beauty. You can try it in your home for 100 nights for free. With shipping and returns all on Casper. You can try it and make sure you like it. Just go to Casper.com, use the code Mike for $50 towards the purchase of your mattress. That's Casper.com. The code is Mike. Terms and conditions do apply. We're back after this, Mike and Mike.
The Mike and Mike on the road to the college football playoff sweepstakes is presented by
Mike and Mike in our Sports Center is brought to you by Campbell's. When you need something hearty to fuel you up fast, grab a can of Campbell's Chunky Soup, packed with big chunks of meat and vegetables, and now in 50 flavors. Campbell's Chunky Soup, the hearty way to fuel your game. Find your flavor at chunky.com. Mike and Domonique Foxworth is here. Each week, Golic, we are asked to pick by our friends at JCPenney a player with style. Player with style for the week. Hurry into JCPenney for Black Friday deals early when you use your 20% off with your JCPenney credit card on select items throughout the store. That's getting your JCPenney's worth, JCPenney. And, Mike, you were the one who chose it this week, and I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, it was. I think it is a good choice. It is Dwayne Wade, going back to Miami for the first time since going away. And he is a very stylish person, and I really thought I was doing a good thing. And then Greeny does what he does best. He turned it into being about him.
Well, Dwayne Wade's most famous, and he is very, very fashion conscious.
Yes, he is.
His most famous outfit was the capri suit, which I emulated. And right now, for those of you watching on ESPN2, we have the 2 photos side by side. And can did we put them up on Twitter for anybody else? We'll get the pictures up on social for you as well to see. And so the obvious question, Domonique, is who wore it better? Dwayne Wade wearing the capri suit or Greeny wearing the capri suit? Let the record show, by the way, his stylist sent me the shoes that he's wearing in that photo after she saw this picture. So I have those blue velvet shoes.
So I've been wondering, I know when the name Goldie was started, but I feel like it's appropriate. Like, that's not Greeny, that's Goldie. And I think you look fresh. However, Dwayne wore it better because I think your Connecticut ankles and the coat is a little too long. But I think you look fantastic. But I think Dwayne wore it better.
I'll fully disagree. I think you look ridiculous. Your ankles look transparent, and quite honestly, when you look at it quickly, and Nick pointed out, and he's right. Dwayne's jacket is very short, so you can really get the whole capri thing. Your jacket is longer. You actually, if you look at it quickly, you look like a woman wearing a dress and leggings.
You do have a nice bit of a short, professional Hillary Clinton cut. So you altogether from a distance, it could be, which isn't bad. Women are beautiful. I think you look beautiful, Greeny.
Yes.
This conversation has taken a turn I was not anticipating, so let me move on. I've got television ratings from last night. The NFL television ratings fall continues, not surprisingly. It's a terrible game last night. Cleveland and Baltimore, it did a 4.2 rating. It was on NFL Network only. The comparable week last week was Buffalo and the Jets. That did a 5.6. So 5.6 down to a 4.2. And I know I promised we'd get into X's and O's, but we're just not going to have time. So Domonique, let me quickly ask you this. because I know that while you were in between your visits with us here this morning, I saw a tweet that you sent in which you said, I'm going to use your words, that while you are an adversary of Roger Goodell's during your time in the league, you believe he has done a good job. I would ask you, why were you an adversary? I watched Michelle Roberts and Adam Silver sitting next to each other the night the NBA season started, and I saw the two of them sitting shoulder by shoulder, looking like they were laughing and relaxed, and they had business to do, but they got along. And I've seen the same thing with Tony Clark and Rob Manfred, and we used to see the same thing with Gene Upshaw and Paul Tagliabue. Right. Why do you feel as though you were an adversary? Why is that the relationship?
So all of those unions, and I worked at the NBA Players Association for a short period of time, but all of those unions are actually adversaries of the league in certain cases. If you could have a more a kinder, gentler relationship, I think that would be good. But I do think so. I can blend it all together. Like I think Roger has done some things extremely poorly, but people talk about it as if it's an easy job. So if you think about, I think all the listeners probably, or many of the listeners can relate to having like an overbearing, annoying, kind of cocky boss. Roger has 31 of them. And they're all billionaires, and they all know exactly how things should be done. And to be able to manage that relationship, I think, is incredibly difficult. And I think the reason why we are adversaries is in part because he has not managed his relationship with the owners as well as some of the better commissioners do. So I think David Stern was good at this. I think Adam Silver is showing the ability to be really good at this, is to understand that while you work for them, your job is to do what's in the best interest of the league. And I think this is the biggest mistake that Roger's made, is he's attempting to please the owners, and we've seen that in some of the discipline against the Patriots and some of those other things. He's attempting to please different factions of the ownership, when in actuality what he needs to focus on is making the league better, which sometimes means you have to convince the owners to do things that are not in their best interests. And sometimes, and I think without him having the ability or desire to do that, you will never have a good relationship with the other side, with the Players Association, because in those other situations, I think they're able to tell their owners in some way, like, sit down and shut up, and then they can go back to the other side and find out what they want and work to that. While they don't work for the players, they do work for the league.
What's interesting is sometimes having to do things that the owners may not like to help the league, and you wonder in his latest statement, will that come about? Will they do less advertising? Will that actually bring in less money to the NFL, and will Roger try and convince the owners if it does? And I don't know if it does, but if it does, convince the owners, yes, putting less money in your pocket will overall be better for the league. That would be a trick.
He is Domonique Foxworth. He and his slides are heading other places. Great to see you as always. We'll see you next week. Joey Galloway is going to race on in here as only he can. Huge college football coming up this weekend. That and more on a Football Friday as we continue on Mike and Mike.
When your medical practice is growing fast and you have more patients than you have room for, you need to start, making some room. Which means all of a sudden, you're looking to buy new exam tables and stools, x-ray machines, and microscopes quickly. Business cards from American Express Open can give you buying power to help cover the big purchases you need to make when you need to make them. Find out how American Express cards and services can help prepare you for growth at open.com.
Football lives here. After a devastating loss to Mississippi State last week, Texas A&M looks to bounce back against Ole Miss. Intercepted! The Rebels begin the post-Chad Kelly era after losing the quarterback for the season.
Here's the snap, 4th and goal. Oh, they got the quarterback tied up, breaks a tackle. Stiff arm, down he goes. Down he goes.
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Ole Miss heads to College Station Saturday night to face Texas A&M.
Stiff arm, down he goes! Down he goes!
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.